Hari Om. Welcome to yet another session of Ola Sanskrita Sahitya, and we are dealing with Urubhangam, the first ever tragedy on Indian theatre, in Indian theatre and on Indian Rangamancha. So, Urubhangam by Mahakavi Bhasa. The Gadā Yuddha has already started, and the soldiers are not able to figure it out. What is the sound, the harsh noise which they are hearing? Is it the thundering of the clouds, ki megha ninadanti, vajrapatanaihi churnīkritaः parvataः, or the mountains are being crushed and powdered by vajra? Nigha nirghātaistu mulasvana pratibhaye kim daryate vāmahi? Is it the harsh noise created by the quaking and the crackling of the earth? किम मुञ्चत्यनिलावधूत चपलक्षुब्धोर्मिमालाकुलं शब्दं मंदर कंदरोदरदरी संहत्यवासागरः? Or is it the tall waves, of the ocean dashing against the valleys and the caves of Mandara mountain, which is creating such a harsh sound? It is because, is it this, is it this, is it this? There is a sandeha, there is an atishayokti alankara, but along with sandeha, so sasandeha atishayokti alankaraha. Now Bhīma and Duryodhana have already started fighting. Pravrittam Gadā Yuddham, and we saw the Gadā Yuddha is between Bhimasena and Duryodhana. And a person now is describing one soldier. What is the condition of Bhīma when Duryodhana is striking hard against him? bhīmasyorasi charukāñcanaśilāpīne pratisphālite bhinne vāsavahastihastakaṭhine duryodhanāṃsasthale anyonyasya bhujadvayāntarataṭeṣvāsajyamānāyudhe yasmiṃścaṇḍagadābhighātajanitaḥ śabdaḥ samuttiṣṭhati. यस्मिन् रणे चण्डगदाभिघातजनितः शब्दः समुत्तिष्ठति. In this Gadā Yuddha, śabdaḥ samuttiṣṭhati, a great noise is coming up, created by what? gadābhighātajanitaḥ. Janitaḥ, created by abhighāta, striking, hitting hard. Gadā, and how are these gadas? Chandagada, very robust and very heavy gadas, both these warriors are carrying with them. Chandagadābhighātajanitaḥ śabdaḥ samuttiṣṭhati sa śabdastumulo bhavat. And that sound was really too great. And then how they are hitting each other, that is the description here. Duryodhana is pratisphālite bhīmasyorasi charukāñcanaśilāpīne. This is the description of Bhimasena's wide uras, wide vakshasthala, his chest. How wide and how it is. It is charu, very beautiful basically. Why charu? Because it is shining like gold. And he says charu kanchana shila. Charu is beautiful, shobhayamana, and kanchana shila, like a rock of gold. It is as broad as, like a shila, like a rock, and as shining as gold. So as if his chest is made up of gold, and very hard like rock. So charu kāñcanaśilāpīne. Pīne is pīvare, sthūla. Okay, pīnastani, etc. These are the words which are used. Basically, it is derived from the root pyai, apyayai, that is to swell, to grow, to outgrow. Really speaking, outgrow. And in the Vedas we have, especially the Soma Suktas, apyayasva indo indraya parisrava. O Indu, a drop of Soma, why don't you just flow for Indra? Because Indra loves you so much. Apyayasva Indo. So Bhimasya urasi, how is the uras? It is charu and kanchana shila Pīna, very broad-chested Bhimasena, very beautiful, shining like gold and as hard as rock. Pratisphālite, pratādite, when Duryodhana is hitting at him, and Bhimasena is also hitting Duryodhana, where? Anyonyasya, both his shoulders. Anyonyasya, ansaha nama skandhaha. Okay? And Duryodhanasya ansa, the two shoulders of Duryodhana, they are also not like, like Navanita, very soft like butter. They are also as hard. As hard as what? Vāsavahastihastakaṭhine. Vasava, Indra. He is one of the Ashtavasus. Vāsavahasti, the elephant of Indra. Who is it? Airavata. So Vāsavahasti, his hasta, that is his trunk, Kaṭhina, as hard as the trunk of the great elephant of none other but the God, the Lord of the gods, Indra. So one whose ansas, the shoulders, are as hard. Shoulders would include the bahu as well, this portion. So the shoulders are as hard, as stout, again, Pīna, as the trunk of the mighty Airavata of Indra. So, bhinne, when the anyonyasya were bhinna, shattered, hit hard at, anyonyasya, mutually they are fighting, bhujadvayāntarataṭeṣvāsajyamānāyudhe. Bhujadvaya, both are hurling their maces against each other. Bhujadvayāntara, in the midst of that, antarataṭeṣvāsajyamānāyudhe. See, the movements are so quick. Both have one gada only. And with both hands they have to lift, because the gada is also chanda gada, not an ordinary play gada, right? So chanda gada. So with both hands they will lift the gada and hurl and hit each other so speedily, so quickly. It seems as if so many gadas are falling in between the space of their bahus. You move quickly, there appears to be too many of the same thing. There are only two gadas, but too many quick movements that creates a picture that bhujadvayāntarataṭeṣvāsajyamānāyudhe. So that ayudha here is not any other ayudha but gadāyudha only. So the gadāyudha are like, they are stuck in between, the inner space between their two bahus of Duryodhana and Bhimasena is as if filled with the gada. And then yasmiṃścaṇḍagadābhighātajanitaḥ śabdaḥ samuttiṣṭhati. And because both of these are hitting each other with such speed, with such vigor and might, that it created a very harsh, very loud noise. Okay, so this is a very beautiful description of the Gada Yuddha, graphic description, you can say, Upama Alankara, because Bhimasena is compared to the Charu Kaṭhina Shila of Kanchana, and Duryodhana's shoulders are compared to the vāsavahastihasta, and therefore there is Upama. There is a Gauri Riti, because very difficult words are used, and Shardula Vikridita is the Vritta. Normally Shardula Vikridita, we have discussed this Vritta because it's a long one, Masajasatata. So it is used for such descriptions, where you require too many like a wordy picture, So this is a very good example of Gaudi Riti. Tritiyaha, another soldier, is describing Esha Maharajaha. Maharajaha Duryodhanaha. And this is the most beautiful example, I should say, in the whole of the Gada Yuddha picture. Very picturesque. A very beautiful example of Swabhavokti, which Dandi describes as Nana Avastham Padarthanam Rupam Sakshad Vivrunvati. Swabhavokti. What is Swabhavokti? Dandi says Padarthanam Rupam Vivrunvati. It manifests or reveals the form of padartha, of objects. And how is this rupa? Nanavastham. Various shades, various phases of the stages of the description of a thing, that is called Svabhavukti. So beautiful verse, let us first read it and then try to decipher it. śiṣṭotkampanavalgamānāmakuṭaḥ krodhādhikākṣānanaḥ sthānākrāmaṇavāmanīkṛtatanuḥ pratyagrahastocchrayaḥ yasyaiṣā ripuśoṇitārdrakalilā bhātyagrahaste gadā kailāsasya girerivāgraśikharoddhūtā solka mahendrāśaniḥ. Yasya gadā bhāti, in whose hand, yasya haste, okay, agrahaste, in whose front portion of his hand, gadā bhāti, gadā looks very beautiful. And this gadā is ripuśoṇitārdrakalilā. This gadā is kalila, has become akula, is covered, has become muddy, wet, moistened because of ripuśoṇitārdraka, because of the wetness of the blood of the opponent. So Maharaja Duryodhana's gada has the blood of Bhīmasena on the tip of it. Okay. Yasya ripuśoṇitārdrakalilā gadā agrahaste bhāti. That is the main sentence. Okay. Now there is an upama here. This upama is what? Kailāsasya girerivāgraśikharoddhūtā solka mahendrāśaniḥ. This looks like Mahendrasya Ashanihi. Ashanihi nama Vajram. Mahendrasya Indrasya Ayudham Vajranamanam. So Mahendraśaniḥ iva. This looks like, this gada looks like the thunderbolt of Indra, which is sa ulka, ulkaya sahita. Ulka is, a firebrand. Ulka is a firebrand, and that will shine with reddish yellow color. This gada, the tip of gada is also shining with the blood, right? And this gada is as fatal as the vajra of Indra. Okay, so Mahendrasya Ashanihi is gada, and solkatva, that ulka sahitatva, is ripuśoṇitārdrakalilātva of gada. Gada is covered with the blood of Bhīmasena, which is red and therefore shining, and this Vajra Ayudha is shining because of the firebrand it creates. Okay, basically what is Vajra? Indrasya Ashanihi is nothing but lightning, Vidyut Chapala. And therefore when the Vidyut, there is a lightning, there is the spark of, like a fiery spark in the front. And that is the Solkatva. So Solka Mahendraśaniḥ, and this Ashani is hurled from the Kailasa mountain. So Duryodhana here is compared with Kailasa. Duryodhanasya gada Kailasasya Ashanihi. Duryodhanasya ripuśoṇitārdrakalilā gada Kailasasya solka mahendraśaniḥ. So this is one-to-one correspondence. Okay. So beautiful upama also is here. Kailasasya girehe iva agrarachita. From the topmost peak of Kailasa mountain, if Vajrayudha is hurled, which has the fiery brand in the tip, similar is looking Duryodhana, who with his gada, wet with the blood of Bhīmasena, is shining. Okay. So this is the last two lines. The first two lines give you a very realistic picture of Gadadhari Duryodhana. And what are the different movements a warrior does, especially in the Gada Yuddha. śiṣṭotkampanavalgamānāmakuṭaḥ. He is shaking his head vigorously. Oh, I can't tolerate you. I will hit you hard. And because he is so vigorously shaking his head, his mukuta is waving. His mukuta is also shaking. Valgamana is really uprising or springing. When his head shakes, it is when during the Gada Yuddha, sometimes he has to bounce and hit the opponent with his Gada. You can visualize, if you have seen Kalaripayattu of Kerala, the martial art, how the warriors, they jump at each other. At times they will contract their body, then they will bounce back as if they are pouncing on the opponent. Similar is the Gada Yuddha movement. Just visualize or just see any video on Kalari, and then you can imagine, you can visualize how this Gada Yuddha is also happening. So, śiṣṭotkampanavalgamānāmakuṭaḥ. Valgamana here is like, when he is rising up, when he is bouncing back, then his mukuta is shaking. Krodhādhikākṣānanaḥ. His anana, his face, is having kaksha, is the side glance. Aksha is eye, kaksha is kataksha. Kaksha is kataksha, that is the side glance. And the side glance is like what? Krodhagni. Krodharupi agnina or krodharupi agnihi kakshe katakshe yasya tadrisham ananam yasya saha duryodhanāṃ. This could be the splitting of the compound. See, krodharupi agnihi kakshe nama katakshe yasya tad ananam krodhagni kakṣānanam tadrisham ananam yasya saduryodhanāṃ. So he is having a face whose katakshas are like, they are emitting fire in the form of his anger. He is angry with Duryodhana because he is angry with Bhimasena, because Bhimasena has caused his 99 brothers' death. And therefore, his anger is, piled up. And therefore, when he is looking at Bhimasena, all that anger gets accumulated in his apanga. He is just judging where Bhimasena is. Then he will spring and bounce and pounce at him. So, krodhagni kakṣānanaḥ. Then, otherwise, kakṣānana also would mean kakṣam nama vistritam ananam yasya, whose face has become wide because of anger. There is an expansion of his facial muscles because of anger. Krodhagnina kaksham nama vistritam ananam yasya tadrishaha duryodhanāṃ. So either krodhagni kaksha you can take as an adjective of anana, or krodhagni kakṣānana as an adjective of duryodhana. Either way, it is krodhagni which is piling up in Duryodhana's mind, and that is being revealed, that is being manifested through his gestures and through his movements. Krodhagni kakṣānanaḥ. Sthānākrāmaṇavāmanīkṛtatanuḥ. Again, as I was saying, these warriors at times will contract their body and then expand with raised hand and hit at the opponent. Like that, Vāmanīkṛtatanuḥ, he becomes dwarf. He contracts himself. Vāmanīkṛtatanuḥ, Bhāsa is very fond of using chvi formations. Abhūta tadbhāve chvihi, we have seen multiple times when he uses these chvi forms. So his tanu, he is very tall and robust built, he has. So he is not Vamana, he is not a dwarfish person. But now, for this akramana, sthana, he changes his places. It is not that one place, they will stand and do this. That is a play, child's play, Gada Yuddha. That is not the real Gada Yuddha. In the Gada Yuddha, like any other yuddhas, they will change their positions. They will have chari, the gati, the circular movements, and this party will come that side, this person will come this side. It is not that they are stationary at one place and they are fighting like an archer, Archer has to be at one place with his knee down and then shoot an arrow. But unlike that, Gada Yuddha warriors, they change their places. So sthānākrāmaṇa. Elsewhere it is mentioned as chari. Chari is basically, this is used in Bharata's Natya Shastra for the nritya movements. You must have seen the dancers, they gracefully changing the positions from one place to another with hand on their vest, and that is chari for dancers. But in Gada Yuddha, chari means the circular movements, changing of the places. So sthānākrāmaṇavāmanīkṛtatanuḥ. He has contracted his body as if kurmongānīva sarvashah, and he has dwarfed himself a little bit, shortened himself a little bit by contracting his limbs, and then he bounces back. Pratyagrahastocchrayaḥ. Hasta uchrayaḥ, raising high up his hand. Hastasya uchrayaḥ. Ut is upward direction. Pratyagra, with his gadā, he will hold his hand up in the sky and bounce back. So vāmanīkṛtatanu, and then suddenly springing up like a ball, you press it and then let it loose, it will bounce back. Similarly, he press himself, vāmanīkṛtatanu, and then bounce back. Very, very realistic picture. And this also, reveals the skill of Duryodhana in Gada Yuddha. Gada Yuddha is not just a fight of might. This is not just a physical prowess which is useful here. You have to be, you can't underestimate the physical heftiness of the opponent. At the same time, the skill to defend yourself, from the attacks of the opponent. You have to at times, vāmanīkṛtatanuḥ, you have to contract your body for defending and then bounce back to attack. So defense and attack both are given here in a very nice manner. This also, reveals maybe Bhasa's scholarship in all these warfare sciences, because this is not just a description of a person who has never witnessed or who has never read anything in the warfare, right? Otherwise, a person would describe it like standing in one place, they are fighting. It's not like that. So Bhasa at least must have gone through some such text which describe the strategic warfares. So this is the burning with the fire, anger, fire in the form of anger. He is bouncing back at his opponent, and this Kailasa, he is compared to the Kailasa mountain. Beautiful example of Svabhavokti, beautiful Upama, and Shardula Vikridita Vritta, of course, which is very apt for the description of such Yuddha. I'll just read it again. This is a very good example. We have one more verse, which again describes Duryodhana's skill, and therefore later on the soldiers come to a conclusion that yes, though Bhimasena is very mighty, Shikshanvitaha Maharajaha, the Duryodhana is skilled in the warfare, in the science of warfare. śiṣṭotkampanavalgamānāmakuṭaḥ krodhādhikākṣānanaḥ sthānākrāmaṇavāmanīkṛtatanuḥ pratyagrahastocchrayaḥ yasyaiṣā ripuśoṇitārdrakalilā bhātyagrahaste gadā kailāsasya girerivāgraśikharoddhūtā solka mahendrāśaniḥ. So very beautiful verse. Then the first soldier again wants to describe eshah samprahara rudhirāsiktāṅgah tāvad drishyatāṃ pandavah. So this was a description of Duryodhana. So some other person now will describe Bhimasena. Alternatively, they are describing either of the two. Drishyatam Pandavaha. So this Pandava here refers to Bhimasena only. Samprahara Rudhira Sikta Angaha. Because of Samprahara, Tadana by Duryodhana, Rudhira Sikta Angaha, all his limbs are sikta, covered, wet with blood. Rudhira. Rudhirena Siktani Angani Yasya. Saha Rudhira Siktangaha Pandavaha Drishyatam Pashyantu Pandavam. Okay. And then again a good description. Svabhavokti again describing Bhimasena. Nirbhinnāgralalāṭavāntarudhiro bhagnāṃsakūṭadvayaḥ sāndraihi nirgalita prahara rudhiraihi ārdrīkrito urasthalaha bhīmo bhāti gadābhighātarudhiraklinnāvagāḍhavraṇaḥ śailo merurivaisha dhātu salila saropa digdhopalaha. Duryodhana was compared to Kailasa mountain. Now Bhimasena is compared to Meru mountain. Come on, they are both competing with each other. Nobody is inferior, nobody is superior. If Duryodhana is Kailasa, let me describe Bhimasena Pandava as Meru Parvata. How is this Meru Parvata? On the Parvata normally there are the red like mineral stones, and when these mineral stones they ooze out, then the red lac like red liquid oozes out and flows out from that. This is technically known as Manashila. In the Ramayana there is a beautiful illustration example, I think in Sundarakanda it is referred to at the bank of Mandakini. Ramachandra and Sita are seated on a Spatikashila, and her tilaka gets wiped out, and so Ramachandra makes a tilaka for her from the Gerua Ranga. Geru is the kaava, in Kannada and in, I think in the language, kaava is that red thing for rangoli. You put rangoli and first you do that. In Marathi it is called geru. So that is the mineral dye. So Ramachandra did that tilaka with that manashila, not here, on the cheek of Sitaji. And once I heard Swamiji saying this, so beautifully he explained that a woman herself, she won't be able to make a design on her cheek, because, she will see in the mirror and do it. It's not possible. She can do all sorts of decoration on her forehead, but not on the cheek. If a tilaka or a decoration is made on the cheek, it reflects the love of her husband. So it is Rama Sita's very delicate moment, and that is, enumerated by Sita there, to Hanuman. So very beautiful example. So let us come back to this Meru mountain. From the Meru mountain, from the slopes of the mountain, the red color is oozing out. Can you imagine now Bhimasena, so hefty, so powerful, so robust build, Bhimasena looking like a mountain, no wonder. And Duryodhana is hitting him hard. Where? His anyonyasya and his lalata and everywhere. So, khoon ki nadiyan beh rahi hai, So the rivers, the pools of blood are coming out of his body. And these rivers, they are flowing from his body in different streams. And therefore, he is looking like the Meru mountain. Meru is again, very apt simile for Bhimasena. In the earlier verse we saw, it is taptakāñcanaśilāpīne. And Meru Parvata is Swarnamaya Parvata. Meru Parvata is called as Sumeru because it shines. It has gold in it and therefore it shines. It is Suvarna Parvata. Okay? And therefore it is very apt for Bhimasena to be described as Meru, because he is already described as having a broad chest, as rocky as the rock of gold and as shining as gold, right? So he is Bhimasena now. Nirbhinnāgralalāṭavāntarudhiro. His lalata is nirbhinna, is broken. Nirbhinnāgralalāṭa, the front portion of the forehead is nirbhinna, is broken by the gada. There are wounds in that, and therefore rudhira is coming out of it. Vanta. Now vanta is really speaking vamana. Okay, and vamana is udgirna, like something is thrown out of your mouth, ulti, right? Ulti karna. So, is it good to use such words in poetry? So, basically, vanta, udgara, udgirna, if they mean the abhidha, what is the sanketitartha, then it is ashlila dosha yukta. But if it is used in a metaphorical manner, that's something coming out. So this is gaunartha, and therefore it is not kavya dosha. Okay, so the critics call it from both the sides. Even Kalidasa was accused of this vanta, But then there are people who would defend him by saying, no, this is a gaunartha, and gaunartha vyapashraye na doshaha. So it is na doshaya. Nirbhinnāgralalāṭavāntarudhiro. Here, rudhira is not vomited, rudhira comes out, It is just coming out of the blood. When there is a wound, naturally, whenever there is a wound, blood will ooze out, blood will come out. So the blood is coming out from his forefront. bhagnāṃsakūṭadvayaḥ. Amsadvayaḥ, both his shoulders, they are, like vrishaskandhaha, very like Raghu kings are described by Kalidasa. So, Sala Vriksha, like Sala Vriksha, they are tall and vrishaskandhaha, etc., etc. So, similarly here, he is also vrishaskandha, and this portion, the shoulder bone, is little bit high, and therefore it is compared to the Kūta, the peaks of the Meru mountain. So these two are the peaks, because this is a high portion in the body which comes out, right? And therefore, Amsakūṭadvayaḥ, it is not just Amsadvayaḥ, it is Amsakūṭadvayaḥ. So the two peaks in the form of his shoulders, they are also bhinna, okay? Bhagna Amsakūṭadvayaḥ. So Rudhira is coming out from this, Rudhira, blood is coming out from these two shoulders. Sandraihi nirgalita prahara rudhiraihi ardrikrita urasthalaha. Urasthalaha, his broad chest. It is a field, sthala. It's a region, very broad chested he is. And ardrikrita, it has become wet now. It has become moist because of rudhiraihi. Rudhiraihi, bahuvachana is used, not ekavachana. This is not a commodity or a thing, this is one rudhira, this is second rudhira and third rudhira to be used as a bahuvachana. That shows profusely he is bleeding. To indicate the profuse bleeding, abundant bleeding, incessant, uninterrupted flow of blood, rudhiraihi, the bahuvachana is used. And this rudhira is coming out of prahara, hitting. Prahara of what? Of the gadā of Duryodhana. Sandraihi nirgalita prahara rudhiraihi. Sandraihi, wet. Nirgalita, because this nirgalita coming out, the blood is coming out from his shoulders, from his lalata, wherever the gada is hitting on his body, on his vakshasthala, on his back, wherever. Back, of course not, because the warrior is not supposed to show his back to the opponent, right? But the front portion of his body. So, rudhiraihi ardrikrita urasthalaha. So, his entire body is wet with blood, and therefore bhīmaha bhāti. Bhīma shines, looks beautiful. Like that also is for a kshatriya, this is also sight to behold, right? Bhīmo bhāti gadābhighātarudhiraklinnāvagāḍhavraṇaḥ. Gada abhighāta, the hitting of the gada, abhighāta. Gadābhighātena rudhiram sravati. Rudhirena klinnam bhavati. Sarvam angam, sarvam shariram. Klinnāvagāḍhavraṇaḥ. His vrana, his wounds are so deep that the blood is incessantly coming out of that, and the blood is not stopping at all. Blood is not getting clotted, and therefore he looks like śailo meru rivaisha dhatu salila ropa digdhopalaha. Dhatu salila sara. Salila sara. Dhatu salila is the drava, the mineral dye, which becomes liquid. Okay? Dhatu salila sara. And because of that, digdhopalaha, digdham, avrutam, vyakpritam, upalam. Upalani nama, the stones. The stones in the mountains, they get wet by the mineral dye, which is red in color. And how that Meru would look? Similarly, Bhimasena is looking like that Meru mountain, and the Upala are the different vranas from which the blood is oozing out. So this is like a Purnopama, okay, one to one correspondingly you can place here, you can make a chart, here are the details of Meru, here are the details of Bhimasena, and you can compare and contrast. So Shailaha Meruhu Iva Eshaha Bhimaha Bhāti. So again a very beautiful description of Bhimasena. Dvitiyaha Bhīmāṃ gadāṃ kṣipati garjati valgamānaḥ śīghram bhujam harati tasya kritam bhinatti chārim gatim pracharati praharatyabhīkshnam shikshanvito narapatir balavānstu bhīmaha. Here it comes, I was telling you how Bhimasena is balavan, very like mighty. Balam asya asti iti balavan. Kintu shikshanvitaha maharaja. But Maharaja is skilled in the warfare. He knows the science, he knows the technique, and sometimes the technique surpasses and supersedes the physical prowess, the physical might. Okay? So Bhīmāṃ gadāṃ kṣipati garjati valgamānaḥ. This is again the description of Raja Duryodhana. Raja valgamānaḥ, like springing up, he valgamānaḥ Duryodhanaḥ bhayankarāṃ gadāṃ bhīmasya upari kṣipati. Bhīmasya upari gadāṃ kṣipati. Okay? He throws his gada on Bhimasena. Who? Duryodhana. How is Duryodhana? Valgamānaḥ, who springs up. Who springs up and hurls his gada at Bhimasena. How is the gada? Bhīmāṃ, bhayankaram. His gada is also bhayankara. Bhīmāṃ gadāṃ kṣipati garjati, making battle cry, war cry. Like crying loudly. Hey, something like that, and hit. So Bhīmāṃ gadāṃ kṣipati, this is again a very, very graphic, realistic picture, giving you the word picture, the pen picture by Bhasa of the fighting Duryodhana. Valgamānaḥ Duryodhanaḥ Bhīmāṃ gadāṃ kṣipati garjati cha śīghram bhujam harati. He withdraws his bhuja, his arm. Śīghram, quickly. He is very quick. So it is dexterity versus might. The skill versus the prowess. Okay? The strategy versus the physical might. This is this in short is the description of the fight between the two. Śīghram bhujam harati tasya kritam bhinatti. And he, he disregards whatever Bhimasena is doing. Bhimasena is not a quiet warrior. He is also hitting him hard. But tasya nama Bhimasenasya kritam. Whatever he does, he breaks it. That means he counters it with his movements. So if Bhimasena is hitting at him, he will contract his body. He will defend himself. And then when Bhimasena is little bit in alert, he will strike him. So Shighram bhujam harati tasya kritam. Very short sentences. See, Bhasa has resumed his simplistic writing again after a long time now. Bhīmāṃ gadāṃ kṣipati, one sentence. Garjati, simple sentence. Valgamānaha, his description. Shighram bhujam harati tasya kritam bhinatti. Okay, he counters whatever Bhimasena does. Charim gatim pracharati. He resorts to the circular movements. When Bhimasena wants to hit him hard, straightforward, he will move and he will defend himself. He will evade the attack. He will escape the attack. Okay? Charim gatim pracharati. Very simple sentence. Praharati abhikshnam. And when he is like caught, not very attentive, Bhimasena, praharati abhikshnam. With great might. Abhikshnam, incessantly, thack, 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 thack. Abhikshnam, one after the other, he will hardly hit him the blows of this mace. Praharati abhikshnam, shikshan. And therefore, after all these three lines in the first 3 lines of the shloka, next comes the generalization of summarizing the qualities and characteristics of these two warriors. Shikshanvito narapatihi. Narapatihi Maharaja, Duryodhanaha, Shikshanvitaha. He is well trained. So much credit goes to his teacher. When the Shishya reveals, the skill, the Shishya is praised, but then, oh, what a great guru he must have. So Balarama is praised, metaphorically. Indirectly, it is praising Balarama, and for Balarama, Duryodhana was his patta shishya. We have seen it. Shikshanvito narapatihi balavanstu bhīmaha. Okay, Bhīma is not less, but he just, he is very proud of his body. He eats a lot. He is a foodie. Vrukodara, vrukasya udaram yasya, and vrukanama agnihi yasya udare. So he has vruka, fire. So anything and everything he eats, he can digest very well. Not like people like us, who eat little more and then we are down with apachanam. Not like that. So Bhimasena, Balavan. He is Balavan, but Shikshanvito. So these are the soldiers of Duryodhana. They do praise Bhimasena, but obviously they will have a soft corner for their king. Right? So Shikshanvitaha narapatihi balavanstu bhimaha. One more verse we'll read and then we'll stop. This is because, this verse is similar to what we read in verse 18. Again, Bhimasena is compared to Dharanidhara, a mountain. Shirasi guru nikhat srastaraktardragatraha dharanidhara nikāṣah sañyugeshu aprameyaha pravishati girirajo medinim vajradagdha shithila visritadhatuhu hemakūto yathadrihi. Verse number 18, he was compared to śailo meruhu iva eshaha. Similar description, but here he is called as Hemakūta. Hemakūta, again, one whose kūta, the peak, shines like hema, that is gold. So this is Suvarna Meru only. Okay. So Hemakūtaha adrihi yatha tatha ayam bhāti. Okay. Tatha ayam pravishati. How is this Bhimasena? Shirasi guru nikhat srasta rakta ardra gatraha. He is ardra gatraha. These descriptions we have come across. Rudhiraklinnāvagāḍhavraṇaḥ, rudhirasikta angaha, etc. His gatra, the avayavas, the body parts, the limbs, they are ardra, wet because of rakta, raktena, ardram, gatram, yasya. This rakta is srasta, coming out, trickling down from guru nikhata, by hard hitting. Guru pratahadita, prahara. Where? Shirasi. On the head. Duryodhana is hitting him hard, has hit him hard, and therefore blood is coming out, and therefore his whole body is as if drenched in blood. Okay? Shirasi Guru Nikhata Srasta Raktardragatraha Dharanidhara Nikashaha. Nikashaha Tulyaha Samaha. He is sama, he is like Dharanidhara, like a parvata. Dharanidhara, Dharanim, Dharati, iti Dharanidharaha, Nama Parvataha. Dharanidhara Nikashaha, Sanyugeshu Aprameyaha. Sanyuga is Samara. Sanyuga is Rana, battlefield. In the battlefield, he is Aprameya, he is incomparable. Bhimasena is incomparable and invincible warrior in the battlefields. Pravishati girirajaha medinim vajradagdhaha. But this Aprameya hero, Aprameya warrior, looking like a great mountain because of his tall, hefty body, when that tall mountain is hit by Indra, by his Vajra, churnikritaha, right? Then the parvatas will become crushed and powdered and it will become flattened. Similarly, this Bhimasena has fallen down on the earth. Vajradagdhaha yatha adrihi tatha ayam Bhimasenaha medinim pravishati bhūmau pravishati. Okay, so he has fallen. Bhūmau nipatati. Medini is because it is made up of the Meda, the Mausa of Madhukaitaba, it is called, the earth is called Medini. So Medinim pravishati Bhimasenaha. So Duryodhana has hit him so hard on the head and his entire body is drenched in blood, and that head injury he could not sustain and he could not stand, and he just fell down like a huge mountain coming down after the hitting of the thunderbolt on it. Again, the simile is the same, but here it shows that, oh, Bhimasena has fallen down. As long as the warriors are standing erect, they have the ability to fight, defend and attack once more. Once a warrior falls down, it is as if his end, right? So Bhimasena has fallen down. In the wrestling also, the Bahu Yuddha, you have seen, if the wrestler falls down, it is very difficult for him to get up and resume back his energy to counter-attack. So Bhimasena is tired. Bhimasena is wounded, fatally wounded perhaps, and he has fallen down as if a huge mountain has collapsed and powdered down and has become flat. So the huge body is lying like a flattened mountain Hemakuta, shining nonetheless because he is taptakāñcanaśilāpīne vakshasthala, right? And therefore this is again a very beautiful example, but similar to the earlier ones. And then Prathamaha Esha Gadha Prahara Shithilīkritangam Nipatantam Bhimasenam Drishtva. And then there are 4 different lines, 3 different lines recited by 3 soldiers, and the 4th one recited all of them together. This forms one verse. One verse has 4 padas. Here the 3 soldiers reciting one pada, and all together the 4th one making it one complete verse. And it gives you the reactions of those people who have gathered there to witness their Gadā Yuddha, who all are there. There is Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, there is Vidura, there is Krishna, there is Yudhishthira, there is Arjuna. So what is the reaction of all this? There is Balarama. So what is the reaction of all this? Let us see it next time. For the next Sunday, I didn't start with her invocation, but I will end with her Shanti Mantra, and with hoping you will celebrate the 75th Amrita Mahotsav, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav tomorrow. and because this is a 14th August lecture we are having, and tomorrow I wish you all a very, very happy Independence Day, and Jayatu Bharatam, Jayatu Sanskritam. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. See you on next Sunday, 21st. Till then, Hari Om.